Ready? This is what we did yesterday. The Jews are all standing. All right. Here's some interesting things. I'm standing up today to give you this covenant. Okay. Oh. Lo itchem levadchem. This is what we learned yesterday. I'm doing it in order to make you a bris, and he explained all these different reasons why they're standing there, either because they heard all these curses that there were before, or because Moshe is announcing to them that he's exchanging the leadership now. Yeshua is going to take over, right? Yeshua is going to take over, and also to remind them that despite all the curses that they had, that they're still standing, etc. Here we go. And God is making this covenant with them that he's going to love them all the time. And he's begging them that they should return this love because God can never abandon them. Good. That's what we learned. Now, God's making this covenant now with the Jewish people. Lo itchem levadchem, not with you alone. Not with you alone. Anochi koret et brit hazot, am I making this covenant? Ve'et Allah hazot, and this curse. Not only with you, but at asher yeshno po, but with everyone that's here today, omer hayom, lifnei Hashem Elokeichem, and this is the main thing, at asher einenu po imanu hayom. From here we learn that all of the Jews were there, even the souls, af im torot atidim liot, even the generations that are going to be. Even the generations that are going to be. Well, it says something similar by Matan Torah. And there it says, Et asher imanu einenu imanu hayom. Even those that are not here today, because all these Jews died also in Egypt. So at Matan Torah, all of the souls heard God say, whether the souls that were there, or the souls that didn't make it out of Egypt, or the souls that were going to be. That was in Mount Sinai, because every soul, that the Torah was the creation of the world. But here, God is making a covenant with the Jews to keep the Torah in this world. It's only relating to the Jews in the future generations. In other words, anyone that's now and that's going to be born, they're all the souls, even the future generations that were going to be, they were all there when Moses entered into Israel, and all of them are empowered now by this covenant. And here we go. Ki atem yudatem, because you knew, asher yeshavnu be'eretz Mitzrayim, you know how we sat in Egypt. Ve'et asher avarnu b'kerev hagoyim asher avartem. You know what happened, how we left those nations. Let's see. The Sharitim, you saw all of the idol worshippers. V'shama hesi lev echad mikem. V'shema, and maybe, hesi lev echad, maybe one of you was convinced. Lalechad achareim. In Egypt, it says they worshipped all the gods. There were all these gods that they worshipped. And when they were there, the Egyptians, the Jews had been slaves in Egypt for 210 years. They had been servants in one form or another. They had been in Egypt for 210 years. And this time, the Egyptians were the most successful in the world. And the Egyptians were pleasure-loving people. It says it was shtufi zima. The Egyptians, besides being big sorcerers and big magicians, and says that Moshe, when he turned the stick into a snake, says that Paro said, we were lacking over here sorcery. It's like trying to sell ice cubes to the Eskimos. Sorcery is everywhere. He called in little children on the way back from home. They could turn sticks into snakes. So it says the Jews, they saw that the Egyptians knew sorcery and they knew all this strange magic, and they had all these gods that they worshipped, and it worked. The Egyptians ruled over the whole world. So it's true that afterwards the Jews got out. But it says, but it could be that maybe one of you saw the idolatry over there and you liked it. And now your heart is drawn after it. You've seen all the shikutzeim. You've seen here it says, you saw the disgusting idols, the gilulehem. Another word for disgust. You'll see what this means. Gilulehem usually means excrement, like manure from animals is called galilim. And that's what Rashi says. You saw the shikutzeim, al shem shem mu'asim k'shkatzim. It's disgusting like shkatzim. I have to tell this story. We went, once my wife got this thing, she wanted to travel around the world. So we got in the different Chabad houses. We went to different Chabad houses. Anyway, we were there, I think, I'm almost sure it was Vietnam. North Vietnam, South Vietnam. We had this guy that took us around. So I was more interested in seeing people than to see, places. Anyway, so he took us, so I said, listen, we don't want to go in any churches and we don't want to go into any places, temples and things like that. We're not even interested in seeing it from the outside. But, people, I'd like to talk to people. Okay, good. And so it was really hot outside. So he took us into this place. This is the town hall. He said, you sure that's not a church or anything? No, a town hall. So we went in, it was dark. We sat down. All of a sudden I saw there was this big statue of like a horse. And then there was like an owl or a snake or something like that. These big statues that like filled up at least a third of the room. So I said, what type of a place is this? What type of a town hall meeting they have, a big statue of it, takes up so much place. So I said, tell me, do they worship these things? They pray to these things? He says, oh yeah, sure. I ran out immediately, but I saw these statues and immediately it aroused in me this disgust. I don't know what to say, with disgust. And I remember when I was a young boy, I don't know, maybe I was 8, 9 years old. Maybe I told the story before. My parents were not religious. They certainly were not anti-religious or anything. And we kept milk and meat in the house and we didn't bring in pork. And my father used to go to the synagogue on Rosh Hashanah. And, I didn't really go with him too much. And Pesach, we also made a Seder. So he was but to see a religious person was very far from it. Anyway, we went to New York and we walked through this chapel. I don't know what it is, John's Chapel or something. It's a huge place. It happens to be that there's a door on one side from one street and it goes all the way through. It takes up a whole entire block. And then there's a door on the other side. So we figured, okay, we'll go through and it's also an interesting place. So we're going through and there's all these lights flickering and these little statues all over the place. And I'm looking in the front, and there's this big cross over there and this big stuff. And I remember my father was like really pulling me. He was pulling me, let's go. So I said, why? Let's just hurry. Let's go on. Come, let's go. So, it was not like my father. My father was a very easygoing guy, and he had, a good sense of humor. And he was very, definitely not lackadaisical. He was very, the things that he believed in, he was very firm and he was very active. But still, other people's opinions, he was very, very open. Very, very open to other people's opinions. And to other people in general. Just other people in general. I was really amazed to hear that there was such a thing as bigotry, that people didn't like blacks. I heard about it only when I got into university, that people didn't like black. I was really sort of very surprised, because my father always had like drugstores in black areas and just, they're just people like everybody else, a different color. But when he came into this church, I remember he pulled me and we got to the other side and my father said, I can't stand to be in that place. I just can't stand to be there. No, he never had any bad experiences with the church. He didn't grow up in Poland. He brought up in America. There was something disgusting there. And the same thing with this other place that I was there. There's something disgusting about idolatry. And he says, and they're called Gilulim. Shemo musrachim, that they smell and they're disgusting like a galal, like excrement. Eitz ve'evan, made from wood and stone. Oten shall eitzim, those from wood, stone, and those from wood, you can see them. Why? Because ein ovdei galulim, they're not afraid that somebody's going to steal them. But there's also kesef v'za'av asher imohem, and there's also ones of gold and silver. The ones of gold and silver, that's in the chedrei mishkavtim. They keep them in their bedrooms or whatever, because people are afraid that somebody's going to steal the gold and the silver that's on them. Pen yesh b'chem ish or isha, maybe you have one person, a woman or a man or a woman, or a shevet, that his heart is going to pull today from God. And they'll go to serve one of these gods that the nations worship. Maybe one of them have Shorish Por of Rosh V'lana. Let's see what this Shorish, Rosh V'lana. Shorish means like a root that is wild and la'ana and bitter. So he says, therefore, I may have to make you take an oath. Now you should know that idolatry, here we see that there's, like in the world Christianity is idolatry. Idolatry, according to all opinions. It's a question if it's the type of idolatry that it's punishable for, and that, Catholics are different than Protestants. In any case, for a Jew, 100% it's idolatry, and for a non-Jew, 100% it's not necessary, at best. And at worst, it's totally forbidden, because the non-Jews, 7 Noahide commandments, the first of the 7 Noahide commandments is you have to worship only God. You can't worship any idols. But these things have a big pull. These things are very, very enticing. They have some sort of a pull, of sort of a comfort that they give, or whatever, like drugs, like all these other things that people do, and that they run after, like strange women or prostitution or these other things. The people are drawn after it. They have a desire, drugs and gambling. They provide a certain comfort, but this provides a certain spiritual comfort. And on one hand, it's not totally bad, because these religions, like Christianity, Islam, they're based on Judaism somehow or other. Islam a little bit less, but still they're based on Judaism. At least Christianity talks about the Torah. In Islam, they have one God. Okay, maybe there is among you, asher levavo pone ayom, that your heart will be drawn today from, you won't want to take on this covenant. Shorish por reish v'lana, a shorish, a root that grows a bitter vine. Kigidim shem marim, like when you, from an animal, if you like the ligaments, the sinews. Like it says, Mefara bo maraba resha, it will grow evil, bekir b'chem, inside of you. Person gets a little worm inside of him. It's very, very difficult to shake. Okay, etc., etc. Let's just jump over here. Let's just do one more. And it will be when you hear these words and you say, God doesn't want me to worship idols. And you'll bless yourself in your heart and say, Shalom yeh, it's going to be okay. I do what I want. I do what I want. I'm going in my free heart. No one's going to tell me what to do. Laman safota rava, in order to connect the satisfied with the thirsty. There's a book called Kuntras Umayan. Kuntras Umayan, and there he talks about the rava are the non-Jews, and the tzmeya means the Jews. The Jews are always thirsty. Jews are always they can never be satisfied by anything. And Rava means non-Jews, they can be satisfied. They can worship an idol, it'll make them satisfied. Rashi, though, interprets it differently. Rashi says a person will bless himself in his heart. He'll think in his heart a blessing and shalom to himself. And he'll say, don't worry, these curses aren't going to come to me. They're not going to occur to me. I'm scared. Let me share this. He'll say, these curses aren't going to come to me. I'm in the wrong place. There we go. Even more, peace is going to come to me. I'll be okay. And in fact, it does. It works out. The guy goes and becomes the Pope or something, and it's great. He gets all sorts of honor and everything. But he's borech, and he'll be blessed in his own heart. It says, Vitgalach, Vitpalel. It says he will bless himself in his heart. And he'll say, B'shrirut libi elech, I'm going to do what I want. V'marot libi, whatever my heart tells me, that's what I'm going to do. Like Ashurenu v'lo karov. Like it says, I see Mashiach, but not nearby. He's explaining the language of ashri. Shriri says means what I see. What my heart sees, that's what I'm going to do. Masha libi roeh, whatever my heart sees, that's what I'm going to do. Right? He goes to show, oh, look, there's a nice movie going on. You know what? I'll go in. Oh, there's a nice something to eat on Yom Kippur. Why not? Let's take it. Right? Whatever his heart decides, that's what he does. In order to safota rava, in order to add on the satisfied with the hungry. Let's see how Rashi explains this. This is going to add on punishment on what he already did. Because the sins that you do by accident, God haiti mavir aleim, God ignores them. But now, when you do sins on purpose, v'gorem ata now, shatzaref imam mezid. Now you go and you worship idols on purpose, right? What does a person do? He does a few sins. Oh, yeah, messed up. I turned on the light on Shabbos. Oh, I see nothing really happened, right? He didn't put on tefillin one day. He didn't do this, right? He ate food that wasn't exactly kosher. He didn't wait. He sees nothing happens bad to him, right? Really, what does happen to a person when he does a sin by accident is he loses his sensitivity. But he thinks to himself, look, nothing really bad happened to me. Really, something did happen not good, namely they became insensitive to Hashem. And that's one of the biggest punishments of all, that a person loses his sensitivity, uses his humanity. Right? That was the big thing of the Nazis. They were just insensitive. They went around and killed people, and they murdered people, and they stole, and they burned, and they tortured people. But they didn't feel anything. That they felt was somehow or other a superior person. That he was free from his conscience. So when you're free from your conscience, that's very bad. But now what happens is the next step, God forbid, you could do sins on purpose. So the things that you did by accident, God says, I overlook them. I don't care. But when you start doing things on purpose, then I'll roll up the whole thing and I'll punish you on everything. And nowadays, God overlooks that also. But okay, Bakain, Targum Onkelos also says, Bedil, in order, she'osfa le chata'i shaluta, shalvata al zanutata. I will add on the sins that you did by accident, in other words, without intention, on the ones that you do on purpose. Then I'm going to add on the accidental ones. I'll attack them on to the purposeful ones that you do. That's harava means the accidental sins, and the tzmeah means the sins you do on purpose. Okay, let's just 1 second. Here we go. Let's go to the end. God says, I'll give you these terrible punishments, which we see that he did. He destroyed the first temple, the second temple. Jews were in exile. Jews did these terrible things. Somebody told me the other day on Shabbos, last week's Torah portion, we read these 98 terrible curses. Well, if you're in shul on Shabbos, you saw that when the Baal Korah, when the reader of the Torah, when he gets up to these curses, so he reads them quietly and he reads them quickly. Did you notice that? You were in shul on Shabbos? Did you notice it? Anyway, he reads them quietly. He lowers his voice a little bit, right, so everybody can sort of barely hear. And he also lowers the tone of his voice, right? Instead of him reading he writes, lowers his voice. They say that the synagogue of the Kloisenberger Rebbe, Rav Halberstram, he went through the Holocaust and he lost his 11 children, his wife, his family. And they say he wrote a letter. Anyway, he wrote a letter when they wanted to bring, when they kidnapped Eichmann from Argentina. So Argentina was very angry. So they had him write a letter to the president of Argentina explaining. It didn't work anyway, but maybe it worked a little bit anyway. So it said, I lost 11 children. He lost 11 children and his wife and his parents. He said altogether, if I'm not mistaken, it said 250 people in my immediate family, my wife and I, immediate family. So you can't expect me not to demand vengeance. That's what he wrote to them. In any case, he did lose all these people. He did lose all his family. And they say that in his synagogue, when they got up to reading all the curses, the 98 curses, so he told the one who reads the curses, don't lower your voice, and don't read quickly. Read it very slow and very loud. He said, I want God to know that we went through all these curses. His congregation were also mostly, people that survived. We went through all these curses and we still believe in him. We're still reading the Torah and we still believe in him. Okay, so it says, and finally in the end it says, Hanistros Lashem Elokeinu v'aniglos lanu lovanenu. The hidden things are for God, and the hidden sins, they are for God, and the revealed sins are for us and our children forever to keep this Torah. Let's see what Rashi says. It says, maybe a person will say like this, what are we going to do? Hashem, you're making all these curses and threats for everybody. You're threatening all the Jewish people. You're manish at the rabbim. You're going to punish everybody. Al hahirhure, on just the hidden thoughts of individuals, right? Jews that they just think about idolatry and doing sins. You're going to punish not only them, but you're going to punish everybody. Like it says, pen yesh bachem. Maybe you have, right? Isha isha asher belavavo. It says. Maybe there's one of you that in his heart, let's see what it says. Pen yesh b'chem isho isha mishpacha hashevet asher levavo, that his heart is going to go today from God. Right? One person or one woman, a man or a woman, is going to think in his heart against Hashem. And then you're going to make all these punishments. A person could say, how can we do it? What's going to be? I mean, I'm trying my best. I'm trying to tell other people also, but there's people that aren't going to listen to me, right? You're going to punish everybody just for the sins of these stubborn sinners? So it says, if you want to say, what can we do? You're punishing everybody just for the sins of the few. It says, maybe one person has in his heart, and then it says you're going to see the punishments that are coming on the whole land. A person doesn't know what's in the heart of his friend, right? You don't know. It could be that my rabbi, that he's giving me lectures about how to be a good Jew, he's thinking about idolatry. Maybe he has a little idol in his room. Why punish me for that? And God says, don't worry about it. I'm not punishing anybody for what's concealed. The hidden things, that's the Hashem Elokeinu. God will take care of those individuals, that individual that is thinking negative thoughts, don't worry, God will deal with it. And like I said, now in our generation, it explains in the Tanya also in Igeres HaTshuva, that now in our generation, God doesn't punish people anymore. We see people do all the sins possible, and they live the long, healthy lives on Florida, and I'm sitting in the sun, right, and playing whatever they do, playing badminton or something on the sand. They're 97 years old. They've done all the sins, and they've done it. So Hashem doesn't punish people anymore, but he should, right? He should. God is just really good. He says, the hidden things I'll take to individuals on their own. But the revealed ones, lanu levanenu. But revealed people who do revealed sins, that I have to get rid of. Because I don't make any sort of judgment on the individuals, then everyone is going to be punished. They'll draw everybody after them. See, it says over here. If you look in the Torah, it says, the little dots over the top of it, if you read in the Torah, to tell you that also the revealed sins, God does not punish everybody until they go over the Jordan River. As soon as they accepted on themselves this blessing and curse on Mount Gerizim and Mount Abel, then everyone became mixed one with the other. So this really still stands today. If you see a Jew that's doing sins, you should try everything you can, even just to pray for him. Sometimes that's very successful. Just to pray for another Jew, right? To think good thoughts about him. positive thoughts, because every Jew wants to do tshuva. Okay, now let's go to Pirkei Avos. Wonderful. Okay. One second, excuse me. Here it goes. All right. I didn't get a chance to look at these things you sent me, Rachmiel. I'm sorry. Here it is. Tell me, Yerachmiel, did I remind everybody in the morning that there's a class now at 2:00? Did I remind everybody? Do you remember? Yerachmiel, are you there? All right, I guess not. Okay. You there? Are you there, Yochanan? Is anyone there? Okay.
I'm sorry, he had to go to pick up our son.
I see. Okay,
Sorry.
good. All right, no problem. All right, on paper, there's 4 people listening. I guess someone, so that's good enough. Here we go. Okay, this is the way of the Torah. You should eat only a little bit of bread, we said, drink a little bit of water, sleep on the ground, live a life of discomfort, and work hard at the Torah. And if you do, then you're going to be happy in this world and in the world to come. And we explained that what does it mean? Not that you should seek a life of poverty and difficulty, no. But if, God forbid, it does occur to you that you're in a life of poverty and difficulty, nevertheless, that should not deter you and should not be an excuse for not learning Torah. Okay, that was the first part of the Mishnah, and now is the second part of the Mishnah. Al tavakesh gedula la'atzmacha. Don't look for greatness. Va'al tachmod kavod. And do not lust after honor. Right? You want everyone to stand up in front of you, and you want everybody to call you, your majesty or whatever. Lesson number 1. Lesson number 2. Yoter milumudecha asay. Do more than what you know. Fa'al titaveh, like it says when the Jews received the Torah. What do they say? Naaseh v'nishma. Let us do, and then we'll understand. Al titaveh l'shulchanam shel malachim. Don't desire a table of kings. A king is wonderful, but who wouldn't want to be a king, huh? Being a king, greatest thing in the world, right? Says Pirkei Avos, no, not. Could be the worst thing. that your table is greater than their table. V'kitrecha, and your crown is greater than their crown. V'ne'emanu ba'al malachtecha, and it says, don't worry about it. If you're working for God, He can be trusted l'shalem l'cha schar pulesecha, to pay you your reward. I was trying to think today, maybe what's a good example? Everybody wants, not everybody, but in any case, people want success, popularity, power, money, attention. People want these things. People lust after these things. Are these things really worth running after? Or maybe this is part of the lie of this world. I'm sure you know the story about the previous Rebbe, that there was a Farbringen with the Chassidim in the nighttime in Russia. This is when he was a young boy, in the time of the Tsar. And they ran out of vodka, and they sent him to find a place. He was very clever, very, very intelligent and clever. And he went out on the street, and he saw a Gentile, a drunk there, that was just finishing a bottle of vodka. And he had another bottle. And he said, I think that's the way it was. In any case, he had a bottle in his hand. And he said, Tabarish, my friend, please, Pajalsta, sell me that bottle of vodka that you have. And he says, no way. He said, listen, I know how much a bottle of vodka costs. It costs 2 ruble. I'll give you 10 ruble. He says, niet. I'll give you 15 ruble. Niet. So I'll give you 25 rubles. He says, niet. He said, the Rebbe said, fool. Tomorrow you can go and you can buy 10 bottles of vodka and you'll have money left over. The person holding the bottle said, you're right. Tomorrow I can have 10 bottles. But tonight, when I drink this bottle, all of Moscow belongs to me. Okay, now does it really belong to him or does it not? He feels it does. Is it really true? He feels it. And let's say it does. Let's say it really Moscow all belongs to him. So what really does he really get? He gets a big portion of the physical world. Very nice to have. Is it a lasting thing? Somebody could take it away from him, right? Let's take another person that he's in Stalin's Russia. And Stalin says to him, if you just inform on the other Jews, I'll give you all of Moscow. If you don't, you'll die. And the person says, I'm not going to tell you. You can do what you want. He loses everything. He loses Moscow. Nobody even knows who he is. Nobody even knows where he's buried. Nobody even knows what he did. But nevertheless, he did something that gives him a personal satisfaction more than anything that this world could possibly give him. And like it says, God sees these things. God is the creator. He's the creator. He creates everybody. If a person lives according to the principles of God, he knows deep down inside. And let's say it's a person that doesn't even do it because of the Torah. It's just a non-Jew and he can't lie. Can't bring himself to do it. No, he lives according to a life of values. That's an infinite thing. That's something you can't take away from the person. He feels at that moment that there's something infinite going on. No, so the question is, what is really valuable? So here he's saying Torah. That's even more valuable than all the other values. That's the source of all value. So let's have a look. Let's have a look and see. Sometimes there's things that you do between you and God. I'll tell you one more story. They say that there's several stories about how the Baal Shem Tov came to be born. Baal Shem Tov's father was Rabbi Eliezer. There's stories about him that are almost fantastic stories, but there are stories that they're reliable stories. They're stories. Okay. One of the stories is that Elijah the prophet came to the father of the Baal Shem Tov before the Baal Shem Tov was born. And he said, listen, I've been sent from heaven And I want to ask you something. When you were bar mitzvah, you did something. You did something, and it made all the heavens shake. But nobody knows what it was. If you reveal to me what you did, I'll let you know any secret of Kabbalah that you want to know. You can have any wish that you want. And he said, no, I don't want. I should know that the revealing secrets of Kabbalah to a person who's a Kabbalist, this is like, going to, who knows, Beethoven or something like that and saying, I'll give you another 100 compositions, brand new genius compositions that you can write. It only lives for this. And nevertheless, he said, what I did is between me and God. I have no intention of revealing it to anybody. He said, you'll get the world to come. I'll give you heaven. It just doesn't make any difference. I'm not interested. What I did was between me and God. I don't want any sort of rewards. So in other words, sometimes there's things that you do between you and God that's what's really meaningful, something that's really infinite, because nobody knows about it, but Hashem knows about it. Hashem is eternal. Okay. So it says, don't look for greatness. If you do learn Torah and you get a lot of knowledge in Torah, al tabakesh sarara. Don't demand that people should give you a high position, that you should be given a position of rulership. But al tachmod kavod, and don't desire honor. Sometimes the most valuable thing, I really very believe in this, is to support people who are rulers, to support people that are ruling. Help them, agree with them. If they make a mistake, don't oppose them. Go in private, say, listen, I don't think what you said was right. Can we talk about it? To sometimes people, the greatness of a person can only be revealed if he has a friend. If everybody's fighting to be number one, and it could be that everybody deserves to be number one, but then nobody is really going to really succeed because no one supports him. Everybody else has a bad eye on the other person. So somebody has to be the one that supports people that are ruling and not try to be a ruler yourself. It says, don't desire to be honored. That you should be honored because of your Torah. Because of that, it comes out that you're doing everything not for the sake of Hashem. Not only that, you can never really be simple. I'll tell two more very simple stories that I heard. I think you already told you one. They say that Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, that he was a tremendous Talmudic scholar, and even greater, he was a posek. He knew law, halacha, law, Jewish law. Even to this day, the analysis that he makes, and they say that when he used to go to synagogue, like on Shabbos, he would always stop and talk to the children. I guess it must have been maybe religious children, non-religious children, but he would always talk to them and, be friendly with them. He didn't really hold for himself to be, a person that he demanded everyone give him honor. Honor. Then another story, which is the more famous story, that after he passed away, this old woman came to his house and said, well, why isn't the rabbi here? And they said, didn't you know he passed away? And she started to cry. He said, he's such a wonderful person. And so his pupils said, well, maybe you can ask us your questions. We also, we were his pupils. Could be we can answer. So she said, all right, do any of you speak Russian? And they said, no, but you speak English very well. You can ask me. He said, no. Once a month I received a letter from my sister. She lives in Russia, and I don't really understand Russian. So I brought it to Rabbi Feinstein. He understands Russian. He would sit and translate it for me once a month. In other words, he could have said, listen, maybe, lady, excuse me, go to somebody who speaks Russian. This is not a, what is Berlitz language center. No, he realized that the nice lady, she wanted something. It was, don't demand honor and don't say, I'm so great, I can't take up my precious time. Even more than what you learn, you should do. That your deeds should be more than your wisdom. Like we learned, Kol Shamasav, we learned before in Pirkei Avos, the 3rd chapter, anyone whose deeds are more than his wisdom, then his wisdom will remain. What does it mean it will remain? In other words, you shouldn't just leave your things that you learn in the books. You should take whatever you learn and first of all, do it, and even maybe more important, to teach it to others and teach others to do. In Midrash Shmuel, it explains that even in things which you are not sure about them, right? Nevertheless, you should be severe on yourself in order that you should not do a sin of the Torah, right? You live in a place, you don't know if the eruv is good, you don't know if the food is kosher, you have a doubt, so then don't do it, right? You don't do it. If it's a matter of doing something positive for other people, let's say someone asks you for charity, you don't know if the person is honest, you don't know the person, so you give him charity. Maybe you don't give him so much, you have a serious doubt, but nevertheless give charity to everybody. Don't desire for table of the kings. King's table is filled with ma'adanim, umishmenim, with all sorts of delicacies and dainties, right? Cream puffs and all these things. Why? Sheshulchancha, because your table is greater than their table. Like it says, Zel shulchan asher livnei Hashem, because this is the table that is in front of God. Some people say that your table, namely what in the world to come, is greater than their table in this world. In other words, it'd be nice to have a table of a king. You learn Torah, your reward is going to be much greater. The good things that you do here will be more eternal. Like it says, in Naaman, the kisracha, and your crown is greater than their crown, that the crown of Torah is greater from the crown of kingship. We learned that before in a Mishnah in Perek Dalet. And the one who, your boss, Baal Malachtacha, Kodesh Baruch Hu, that he is the one who told you to do the Torah and the commandments, he is faithful. He can be believed, that he will return what is owed to you. Whatever effort you put in Torah, then the end, honor and greatness and reward will come. Will come. If that's what you seek. Mishnah number Hey. Great is Torah more than, this is what we learned before. Torah is great. This is what he said to look here. The crown of the Torah is greater than the crown of kingship. Okay. Greater than the crown of kingship. The kingship, to be a king, you have to have 30 good qualities. To be a Kohen, you have to have 24. But the Torah can be acquired with 48 good qualities. 48 good qualities. You want to get Torah, you have to have 48 good qualities. And let's just see what this means before we go into it. Let's just see what this means. The Torah is greater than the priesthood and greater than the kingship. Kingship has 30 good qualities. In other words, there are 30 merits there are to a king because of his rulership. And they're explained in Shmuel. What are the 30 good things about a king? That he rules, that he can take people to be his servants, that he has a chariot and horsemen running before his chariot, that he has a chariot and he has a horseman. They run before his chariot. He can make thousands of, he has the heads of thousands of soldiers, heads of 50 soldiers. He can plow wherever he wants to. He can harvest wherever he wants to. He can make vessels. Ooh. He can make vessels of war. He can make vessels for his chariot. He can take your daughters to be his maidservants, work in his house for making spices, for cooking, to bake for him. You can take your fields if he wants to. He can take your vineyards if he wants to. He can take your olive orchards if he wants to, the best. He can take you to be his servants. He can take your planting, your harvest. He can give those to his servants. He can give those to his workers. He can take your servants. He can take your maid servants. He can take your the best of the young men for his army. He can take your donkeys. There's your to do his work, and that they can. He can take miser, take a tenth of all of your sheep, and he can even take you, that you should be his servants. A king, on the other hand, has, what did we say? 30 good qualities for a king. Okay, we don't have, should we go through the whole thing? We can go through it tomorrow. A Kohen has 24 good things. A king has these 30 things, etc. Okay, we'll go this tomorrow. But the Torah has 48 good qualities that you have to have in order to acquire it. What are these 48 qualities? So it lists it, and that's what I want to begin to learn now. You have to learn the Torah mitoch shkida v'hatmada. You have to learn the Torah with diligence and constancy. Some people say that you have to learn from everyone something. Number two, we're not going to go over all 48. Let's just do 4 or 5. Another good quality that is required for learning the Torah, shemi'at ha'azan. You have to be able to listen. 1 second, excuse me, someone's calling me up here. Good, we're back again. All right, now let's go to learn the laws of